Hey, what's up? Today's video will be about Phase 2 best in slot for Affliction Warlocks. I'll show you the 80s upgrade and then we'll go over every slot and I'll list a few options and alternatives for you, as well as quickly go over the gymming options. First off, there are a ton of options for gearing in Phase 2. We have 10-man loot and 25-man loot with options at normal and hard mode loot. That being said, I know some of this gear will be hard to obtain for most of us, so I'll briefly show some alternatives to hold you over until you get your absolute best in slot. Please know that there is truly an absurd amount of new gear on the side of Ulduar, most of which is an upgrade in comparison to our Phase of 1 gear. This being said, don't get carried away by hunting down only your perfect best in slot setup. Most of the best in slot pieces are highly contested, so expect to be waiting in line for most of the gear. In the meantime, I urge you to pick up any of these amazing side pieces listed in the video or in the future video that'll be out later tonight about, it's going to be a video of a best in slot with no hard mode loot, so keep an eye out for that. Loot upgrades are loot upgrades, so remember that as well. And there's a ton of loot to get. Before we start, let's touch on gyms. Nothing really changed from Phase 1. You want to use Chaotic, Skyflare, Diamond for your meta gym, and then use 2 Purified Twilight Opals to activate your meta. Put Runes, Scarlet Rubies in all red slots, and then in the yellow sockets that have any Spirit or Spell Power bonuses, put either Reckless Monarch Topaz in it if you do not need hit, or you can use some Veiled Monarch Topaz if you do need hit. You also have pure 16 hit Rigid Autumn gems if you're really desperate, but I've yet to use any of these thanks to suppression. And now that Phase 2's out, they also have these fishing gems that I'll put on my screen right now. They are all unique and you can only use one of each color. Make sure to get the red one and use it immediately. Next up, I want to talk about when to drop Tier 7 4-set and the viability of the Tier 8 set bonuses. Due to Blizzard buffing the item levels of all the gear in Ulduar besides tier pieces, every piece of gear that we can get from Ulduar that's not tier will be a pretty large upgrade in comparison to whatever you're wearing in Nax. For this reason, I'll be dropping my Tier 7 4-set pretty fast. Obviously, it's hard to tell since there are so many different pieces of gear you can obtain, and we have no idea what order we're going to obtain it all in. That being said, as soon as I get 2 best in slot upgrades that would otherwise replace any of my Tier 7 set pieces, I'll be replacing them. In a quick example, look at the difference from our Tier 7 headpiece and our best in slot Phase 2 headpiece. That's 50 spell power already, without even calculating any of the other stats. When looking at the Tier 7 shoulders in comparison to the strongest shoulders out of Phase 2, you'll notice immediately the extra socket and large amount of spell power. I could keep going on all the Tier 7 pieces, but I think you get the gist. This is just what I plan to do. Once more numbers are done on it from the Warlock Discord, I'll make sure to chime in and let you guys know. Or just head over to the Warlock Discord yourself, your one-stop shop for everything Warlock related. Alright, now onto the Tier 8 set bonuses. First, let's take a peek at the drip. The Tier 8 drip is impeccable. Too bad you won't wear much of it because we don't want all 4. When Blizzard buffed the item level of all the gear, they did not touch the tier gear. So all the tier pieces will just overall not be as good as the non-tier pieces. As for the 2 set, this increases the damage of your unstable affliction by 20%, making one of our hardest hitting damage over time abilities hit even harder. For this reason, you'll be looking to wear at least 2 of these pieces. Which 2 pieces will depend entirely upon which you've received from the raid. But of course there is the 2 best options, and those are generally the robe and the pants. As for the 4-set bonus, it increases the critical strike chance of your Shadow Bolt by 5%. This is a nice bonus, but we've had better. In a perfect world, you won't see 4-piece, as the non-tier options are just much better. However, remember that the other pieces are also contested by most other casters, so don't be shocked if you have to wear some tier pieces while waiting for the best in slot ones. Here's what I'll be going for Affliction. Like I said earlier, between 10 and 25 man Ulduar, there's a ton of options that you can get. A lot of this stuff is highly contested and will come down to some of the harder bosses that must be done in the hard modes. So it'll be difficult to obtain full best in slot. Luckily, there are a ton of options, and I'll go over each slot and I'll just list a few options for each alternatives that can tie you over until you get the big main pieces. Shortly after, I'll have a video of a best in slot list without any hard mode loot, so keep an eye out for that. I won't be showing every single piece of the drops from Ulduar since there truly are a lot of them and that would take forever. Instead, I'm just going to list the strongest of the group. Starting with the Helm. The strongest helmet out of Ulduar is the Crown of Luminescence from hard mode Memoron, widely known as Firefire. However, it comes from one of the harder bosses in Ulduar and only on hard mode, and it is also highly contested, meaning it could be a long time before getting one of these. Here's some really solid alternatives in the meantime. Obviously, your Tier 8 helm, which I mentioned earlier, Cowl of the Dark Whispers and Cowl of Wormhunter are both great options, and you can choose whichever one fits your hit rating needs. If you need some hit rating, then use Collar of the Wormhunter, it's perfect for you. And if you don't need any hit rating, then the Tier 8 or the Dark Whispers is also great. Another bonus about this is both of those are much easier to obtain since they drop off normal bosses. There's a handful of options for Nex, and all of them are super close to each other. Pendant of Fiery Havoc from Hardmode Flame Leviathan is the best option for Affliction, assuming you need the hit, of course, and if you don't need the hit, then you can use Sapphire Amulet of Renewal. Both Watchful Eye of Fate and Pendulum of Showl Grave are amazing options for alternatives for Nex, as they both drop off of normal bosses. For shoulders, Amos of the Inconceivable Horror from a 10-man hard mode Yogg-Saron are easily the best ones you can get. They're the only ones with not only the best stats, but also 2 sockets. Plus, they're from a 10-man, so it shouldn't take too long to get these shoulders. And you'll probably end up with these before you can even get the alternatives. Next up is Cloaks, and believe it or not, 3 out of the 4 best options come from Algalon. Sunglimmer Cloak is the best option and it comes from the 25-man quest. And then Sunglimmer Drape is the 10-man version, which will also be much easier to obtain since it drops from a 10-man. Algalon also drops Drape the Messenger as the 25 version to go along with Drape of Mortal Downfall if you happen to need some hit rating. For chest pieces, this is the slot that I use tier 8. While it might look like slightly behind both Remnants of the Iron Council and Robes of the Umbral Brute, the 2 set giving you 20% more damage on your unstable affliction makes it worth it. Plus the tier chest is pretty close to the alternatives, so it's the best way to obtain half of your mandatory 2 set while also getting good stats. It is more important to get 2 pieces from your 2 set no matter where you're using the 2 pieces. The chest and the pants are just as suggested as the 2 best options. Next up for bracers, Grasps of Reason off of Hardmode XT are the only bracers that are worth mentioning. Unsullied Cuffs are the best in slot bracers from phase 1 and they remain surprisingly strong, beating out all of the other pair of Ulduar bracers. Just wear these until you can get some Grasp of Reasons. If you're new to the game and you don't have Unsullied Cuffs, then you can just pick up any pair from the raid. There's like 1,000. The best 2 options for gloves are both once again from Algalon, and which you choose is simply if you need hit or not. If you need the hit rating, then use Pulsar gloves. If you don't need the hit rating, then use Pharaoh's gloves. Pharaoh's gloves are really good, and I would suggest using those and trying to get the hit elsewhere. Hand wraps of the Vigilant are from Hardmode General Vessex. They're a really great option with 2 sockets, as well as the tier 8 gloves, which is a great option if you need some hit and not wanting to get some Hardmode loot out of it. Belts have a ton of options. The best one coming from Algalon yet again. Star Watcher's Binding is a chunky belt with 2 sockets to go along with a large amount of spirit, spell power, and crit. Of course, you can imagine that this is highly contested against all the other casters, and for that reason, you've got 2 beautiful options to hold you over until you can get Star Watchers off of Algalon. Both Sash of Ancient Power and Court of the White Dawn are amazing belts and are very strong alternatives that are both also bind on equip, meaning that you can go spend some gold on the auction house to get either one of these. Another bonus is Sash of Ancient Power is a phenomenal belt if you need any hit at all. For the leg slot, this is the slot that I use my second tier 8, which will connect my 2 set and give us the 20% damage to our unstable affliction. Leggings of Enslaved Idol are amazing pants that are better statted than the tier 8 pants. However, we want our 2 set from the tier 8. Leggings of Profound Darkness are also an amazing pair of pants that drop from a 10-man normal boss, and you can wear those as well if you don't have the 2 set. As for the boots, you have 3 great options. Boots of Fiery Resolution is the best out of the group and drops from hard mode Flame Leviathan. Shreds of the False Oracle from Hardmode Yogg and Starlight Threads from Algalon are great alternatives to wear in the meantime since they both don't drop from hard mode. As always, we have a ton of options for rings here. Both Nebula Band and Conductive Seal are the ones you want though for Affliction. It's worth mentioning Shimmering Seal is also an extremely good ring that will be much easier to obtain as it's only from 10-man normal loot. Also worth noting that Frozen Loop off Hodir is an amazing option if you need any hit rating at all. For trinkets, you want the new Flare of Heavens off of Vessex and Scale of Fates off of Thorim. They're the best in slot ones. Surprise. Both of these will also be extremely contested by all the other casters, so be patient on these 2. In the meantime, you can continue using your Illustration and Dying Curse from phase 1, since those are both still very strong, and I don't really care about the other Ulduar trinkets too much. If you find yourself needing hit severely for some reason, there's a trinket called Living Flame which will help you out significantly with your hit if you need it. As for weapons, there's actually a ton of new weapons in Ulduar, like 14 or something like that, all of them ranging from amazing to complete and utter garbage. The main one you want is Star Shard's Edge. This is a very good weapon that will also be highly contested. Fusion Blade is another extremely strong weapon that lacks the spirit and some of the hit that Star Shard has, but it is easily second best. Not only that, but this will be much easier to obtain than Star Shard's Edge since it simply drops in 10-man normal Memoron. An honorable mention to another very powerful option is the Staff of Endless Winter. This is a massive staff that you should be happy to have as a placeholder until you get one of the other 2 weapons, with the long goal being Star Shard's Edge. You've got a few good options for Offhands, Cosmos being the best one, but once again will be highly contested. Both Ironmender and Leviathan Feeling Manual are excellent alternatives that drop in normal mode and will tie you over until you can get your hands on Cosmos. Wands, a lot like Offhands, also leave you with a few options. However, Petrified Ivy Spring is by far the best. The only wand out of the phase with a socket. Not only that, but also comes with some spirit and some hit. This is yet another highly contested item, so Scepter of Lost Souls is a great alternative to wear in the meantime. Well guys, thanks for watching. This video would be too long if I sat and listed each and every option, so I hope this was good enough. I'll have one posted soon like this, but with no hard mode loot at all. If you'd be so kind as to go follow the stream and hit follow here with a thumbs up on your way out, I'd really appreciate you. Big cheers and good luck on the gear and the pump in Ulduar.